Welcome to the opening drive, brought to you by FantasyFootballJournal.com. We give you the tools you need to dominate. Welcome to the second edition of the Week 5 opening drive. I'm Andrew Garter. With me as always, J. Charles Johnson, Jeff Hoffman. That was clearly hard for me to say. First up, bye weeks this week. We've got Cincinnati, Minnesota, Oakland, and Philly, which means you don't have to worry about McNabb putting a big donut or a negative in your lineup, but you're going to lose people like Chad Johnson, Adrian Peterson, and, well, it'll give Lamont Jordan a week to rest up since his back seems to be bothering him. Make sure that you fill in your lineups and get the most guys that you can to make up for those points. Some of those studs are going to be leaving on the table for you. We're going to talk about some exploits and avoids, some matchups that we really like and some that we don't. We're going to start off with one that we like. Despite the fact that Cadillac Williams got hurt, Jay, you still like the Tampa Bay running attack going up against Indianapolis.
Yes, and this is, I don't think, is going to be part of the conventional wisdom, but I do like...
That's why we're here.
Yeah, well, I do like this combination we'll have to see who's actually going to be named as the starter, but either one, and possibly, if it's a point per catch league, both might be quite productive. The Colts are the defending Super Bowl champions, but you really can't forget that last year teams were able to run against them. And that's continued this year. As of the end of Week 4, they were 22nd against the run. And last week with Denver, Henry got 131 yards, Selvin Young got 81. So Tampa is going to, it's true that they're going to have to air it out a little bit, but... because you're going to have to score if you're against the Colts. But still, they're going to be allowed, and they're going to take advantage of between the 20s. They're going to, between Graham and Pittman, they're going to get a lot of opportunity to run, and they're going to get some very, very respectable numbers, possibly both of them.
Well, they look good. Pittman's definitely got a track record. Graham's looked good the last few weeks, so it is a matchup that people aren't going to think of. And we're in bye weeks now, so it's important to get those points where you can, and that's a matchup that you're going to get some points out of. Now we're going to talk about a guy we talked about on the Hot Streaks, Cold Streaks show earlier this week, and that's Frank Gore. He's going up into Baltimore, guys, and that's pretty grim.
Well, you have a couple of factors here. First of all, as we said in the earlier video cast, the 49ers weren't producing much in the air before Alex Smith went down. Now with him being out and Trent Dilfer as the starting quarterback, you're going to see the Ravens tee up and go after Trent Dilfer on a continuous basis. They're going to do lots of run blitzing. They're going to do everything they can to stop all the activity in the backfield for losses, and Baltimore can definitely do that. There's no question about it. Don't think that Baltimore is going to have a soft spot just because Dilfer took them to a Super Bowl.
And I think it should be pointed out that even with the upset by Cleveland and the fact that they were outscored, their rushing defense is still ranked in the top 5. They pretty much shut down Thomas Jones and Edge, and Jamal Lewis in the win only got 64 yards.
Yeah, it was a touchdown and saved his fantasy worth this week.
Yeah, so they're still very, very tough against the rush, and with all the problems that we've mentioned previously with Gore, he doesn't look that good a start.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we urge you to go back and look at the Hot Streaks, Cold Streaks just to sort of see where we're at. But in general, it's not that you necessarily can't start him because it depends on what the rest of your RB depth looks. But it is going to be a difficult matchup. He's just not putting up very good points right now, and you have to account for that in your lineup.
Well, for most people out there, he basically goes from being a number 1 to probably a number 2. If you have a better option with a better matchup, you might seriously consider that. But with bye weeks, your roster is probably pretty limited. So if you have Gore, you probably have to start him. Just don't expect a big game.
Okay, moving on to wide receivers right now. We've got a little combination here. Since they're playing each other, I figure we might as well combine them. And that would be the New York Jets and Giants wide receivers against the New York Jets secondary and Giants secondary. If I had to give the edge here, I would give it to the Giants right now, only because their secondary has stiffened up and is playing a little bit better in the past week than the Jets have. The Jets pretty much get torched a lot. Even though their cornerbacks are putting up good fantasy points, that's because they're having a tackle. But I do really like Eli Manning, Plaxico Burress, and Amani Toomer to put up some decent points respective to their category. So Manning will put up some decent starter points for you. So will Plaxico. Toomer's going to be a good number 2, number 3 for you. I like the other side of it as well. Pennington, this is a pretty decent matchup if you need to account for a bye week or you have an injury. Say Bulger is down. I like this matchup better than I do Mark Bulger at all for the next few weeks. I like Jericho Cotchery and Lavernius Coles. One of them usually puts up yards and gets catches, the other one gets a touchdown. So I think that they'll both function as decent number 2s or number 3s for you.
Although Coles has surprisingly been doing very well in the touchdown production this year, which was always the main knock against him, that he was a great possession receiver but never could find the end zone, and it appears that he's being favored almost as much by Pennington as Cotchery.
Yeah, it does seem like a shift because Cotchery got a lot of targets. That's where a lot of his value was last year. He got a lot of yards but a lot of targets. I like both of these guys a lot. I like all 4 of the wide receivers, and my biggest question as to who's going to have better value will come down to who gets the running game going first, and that's probably going to be the Giants because Derek Ward or if Brandon Jacobs comes back will have some success against this run D that the Jets have. The Jets have been having problems getting the run going. Thomas Jones plays well, he doesn't play well. But in general, I like the matchups in the air for both teams, for both sets of offenses, and I think that you'll do pretty well if you start any of these guys. Jeff, flip side of that though, St. Louis, as again we talked about in the hot streaks, cold streaks, Torrey Holt, probably someone you want to try and avoid. Even though it is Arizona, they're not quite as bad as people really put them out to be.
Well, the Rams' offense is complete disarray right now. Torrey Holt shouldn't be started as maybe more than maybe a number 3 wide receiver, possibly a number 2 if you have wide receiver issues. But I don't think this issue is going to be resolved until possibly after their bye week, because they really need to really gather things up, get a full head of steam behind them, and recover from what's really been a horrible start of the season.
Well, you know, it definitely has some concerns, really, for me as well. And as the 3 of us talked about on the hot streak, cold streaks, you know, in general right now, St. Louis doesn't look like it's going to be able to turn around, Farad or not. So we're going to move on to the quarterback exploits. We're going to talk about a matchup that we really like, Tennessee and Vince Young against Atlanta. Atlanta is the 12th defense against the pass in the league. They've given up 863 yards so far, 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception. They're also the 23rd ranked defense against the rush. For Vince Young, I think what this really puts up is a field day. This is a guy who can hurt you with his feet. He can hurt you with his arm. He's made a team that we were concerned had no receivers actually play pretty well through the air. I think this is a guy who could put up really some tremendous points in this coming week. Atlanta may be decent against the pass, but in part that's because you can run on them at will. And if you can run and grind the clock out, why are you throwing the ball? I don't know. Someone asked Norv Turner. He's not sure either right now. Sorry, Tomlinson owner. A little bit upset. Getting back to where we are, Vince Young, I think, is going to have some very, very good points this week for you. More than likely, he was grabbed for you as a quarterback by committee member. This is a guy who I think you could almost start week in, week out in general. I love this matchup. We're going to move on to a matchup that we don't really love that much. And again, another guy we touched on in the hot streaks, cold streaks. But Derek Anderson against the New England secondary. Jay, break it down for us. Tell us how this is not going to work out, even though he's been throwing the ball pretty well.
Well, I mean, he has looked fairly good, but Cleveland is ranking 18th as far as their pass offense is concerned. Now, before everyone jumps on the Cleveland bandwagon, the Bengals defense that they faced is, we know, rather porous, and they jumped to a 2-touchdown lead against Baltimore, who is not a team that plays well from behind, and I think that just threw them out of their rhythm, and they never quite got back in sync again. So I have the feeling that this will be the acid test, and I fear that the clock will strike midnight and the coach will turn back into a pumpkin. And not that this will be the same old Browns from last year, but I think it's going to be a definite reality check for them.
Well, you know, at least if they turn back into a pumpkin, they already have the orange helmets. So
that's
they'll
right.
fit, and it'll almost be Halloween. That's going to wrap it up for our matchup show this week. Come back each and every week, and we'll have all the matchups that you want to take advantage of and some you may want to think twice or avoid. And please make sure that you check out the Hot Streaks, Cold Streaks show every Wednesday each week. And also join us on FantasyFootballJournal.com, where we have fresh content every day. For J. Charles Johnson, Jeff Hoffman, I am Andrew Garda. Good luck this week, and we hope we see you next week when you're successful with yet another win.